There are there's a sort of force in the world, if you like. It's called the Agenda 2030, which is about sustainability. Now, as a lifelong environmentalist, I'm not really a materialist at all, I go along with the idea of sustainability. But there's a great deal of contradiction in that. The sustainability seems to be about developing a thesis in regards to the average person and how they ought to behave, and how councils and governments ought to behave under the auspices of this idea of sustainability. And yet there's a contradiction in there, and it's hypocrisy when you have people, because they're super wealthy or great conglomerations or corporations, who can go out and in some opinions will destroy the biomass and the soils through broadacre farming and monocultures. Excuse me. Now, this is to me a great contradiction when there are sort of rules you should be getting into saving the climate, saving the planet. So I totally, utterly, 100% agree. But I cannot agree with the hypocrisy that's going on in the world when other people are allowed to profit out of doing damage to the world from a sustainable, long-term sustainability. What is sustainability? If profits only come first, that's all that matters, and that sustaining a profit means a reduction in the economic activity in the lower echelons of society, then that's something that needs to be examined from the social aspect. This is not as a socialist, this is as an evolutionist into organic sustainability, and organic sustainability is in regards to the human race as well as, hay fever, that's all. And in regards to the human race, what is the social organic sustainability, what sustains an economy for the rest of the people? Business will employ some, but I think there's a gap now in employment possibilities because there's a gap in thinking. It might be all over the place, but there's a gap in thinking, especially in the West, about to employ people, where we see in Niger, in Africa, people are busily transforming deserts into places where food will grow. But because people in the West have the doles and the welfare, they sit around, and that's their habit, unfortunately, encouraged by governments who cannot seem to go against the corporate system which governs employment. Now, that's not a sustainable model, social model. It's not a sustainable economic model, and it wastes a resource. It wastes the resource of all that human energy that's on the streets or sitting at home doing what it does and not actually being productive at all. But that also is detrimental to those people's health, because the most important thing of all to sustain is your health. If you're not sustaining your health yourself by your own efforts, then you're hardly involved in sustaining anything other than the profits of those who profit out of you using the internet and eating the foods you do and stuff like that. They are consuming you. The foods are actually consuming you because it's detrimental to your health, and that consumption may result in an earlier death or earlier fall in health than what ought to be if you put your health first above all other things. Because there seems to be a lack of communication from the top down about what this sustainability is. Instead of broadcasting it and let's discuss it openly in a democratic, well, it doesn't have to be a democracy, it's just common sense to discuss things openly with the community. our aim is a sustainable world, but don't dictate or use policy, discuss from a philosophical angle what that means, so people then can generate their own ideas in regards to what sustainability is for them. And I see the big part missing in this is in the fiscal distribution system, which is geared mostly towards churning money back up to the corporations who've lobbied governments for special favours in regard to the processing and progressing their product into society. Now there's a hole in this because it's the sustainability of those who want to sort of look after their health, be fit, and work on organic farming, organic horticulture, would be to develop a parallel organic growing system to the big corporate broadacre farming that would then be more sustainable in the end than just broadacre farming, which risks running the soils and creating monocultures, and in the end you have nothing. You have a desert instead of an abundance of different foods. You just have in the end you've got a desert. So there's a whole that not in Africa, not in places that are not in the West, they're having these conversations about sustainability that are grassroots and really about the actual natural sustainability of the planet. And then there's a contradiction in the West with the corporations or doing things that are totally contrary, and they're hypocritical to say we have to have a sustainable agenda when if it's only about sustaining or increasing a profit annually, sustaining that increase in profits, that is a failure and it's a weakness at the top, what's causing disruptions in the bottom, because those people cannot then translate that sustainability so it goes right through society through some sort of general philosophy in regards to what sustainability means at the lower echelons when people are on lower incomes. And the best way to achieve that is have a sliding scale fiscal system where things that are ubiquitous to everyone, there are things, I'm not going to go over the list of that, but transport, power bills, gas bills, fees to go into parks, those sort of things, and people can make their own list up what is ubiquitous without getting into the luxury side of life, but what is ubiquitous to society, they should be charged according to income. And you're going to go into transaction cards anyway, so it's time to look at that sliding scale systems, so people are charged according to their income, and people then are encouraged at the same time to be on a universal wage for 22 hours a week. So it's the sort of a leisure age, it's entering a leisure age, that's why we call it the age of Aquarius, because it's about wisdom and humanity, and it doesn't stop people making profits. This is the beauty of it, it doesn't stop people making profits, they just have to adjust their idea what a profit is. If a profit is a better and healthier society, and the organic growth, a sustainable organic growth of organic horticulture, which feeds people, that is a far wiser sustainable model than just a corporate political model, or political corporate model, which is PC, it's what it is, what it's becoming. But because there's no argument from politics, we can't hear arguments from politics. There must be somewhere, of course. Politics seems to be afraid of addressing these issues. And I think there's a serious flaw in Western democracies at the moment for what it is. And it's a serious flaw, actually, in the big corporate conglomerates who seem to be, they're the ones benefiting. Their profits are the most important thing to them, as Klaus Schwab says, sustaining their profits. Well, if that means that that's a cost to the rest of society, that also might want to profit from the being involved using its energy, that's its capital, or basic capital in a human, is the energy it uses to produce a product that's beneficial to itself and society. It's basic capitalism. It's not communism, it's basic capitalism. To actually put your energy in to produce something for yourself and society. So the idea of this needs a really proper discussion in the world about what sustainability is in regards to sustaining the economic or financial ability for society, the lower echelons of it, to afford the basic living things you need to live on without being broke, without being financially strapped each week because the rents are too high and all the bills are too high because they charge the same as the rich people for electricity bills when they ought to be charged according to their income, because if it's going to have free energy from the wind and sun like we've been told, then that energy is blowing in the wind and shining in the sun, and that once you've planted those windmills you have to pay them off, of course, but there's no reason at all why you can't charge for energy bills for once. It should be free to some people. It doesn't matter. They're still going to make profits because everyone needs energy. So sustainability is not just talking about EVs and windmills and solar panels and all that stuff which is profits of corporates. It's also looking at the development of social organic economies, or permaculture if you like, that people can willingly volunteer into and are treated accordingly with respect for actually having a bit of a go, and allowed to work in things that will sustain them in food. And that man, and the corporates say, oh no, that's competition to us, for we want to monopolise food. They are actually entirely and utterly wrong, because when you just do monoculture, as we've seen for many, many times in the past, over and over again, monocultures destroy land and create desert. And it's that, if you're not discussing that from the top, whoever they are, they're not discussing sustainability at all. It's just a political theme. It's just a corporate trick to have people think they're talking about sustainability, and the only thing they're really talking about is sustainability of profits, and not the sustainability of the organic nature itself. Because you can't be saying one thing about climate change and environmentalism and totally contradict it with such hypocrisy, without people actually waking up in the end what's really going on.